So, welcome to the Comtech Life, where we explore how technology is shaping the way we work and live. I'm your host, Chrissy Neuterman. Today, I'm joined by Lauren Young, a lead product designer at FanDuel. I had the pleasure of working with Lauren at FanDuel, and I've always appreciated her thoughtful approach to design and her ability to keep user at the center of all of the decisions that she's made with the product. I'm really excited to have Lauren on the show and learn about her experiences, insights, and perspective on the industry. Lauren, welcome to the Comtech Life.
Thanks, Chrissy.
So, let's just start from the beginning. How did you end up in design?
So I actually studied industrial design by trade. To date myself, I went to college the year the iPhone came out, so UX wasn't really a thing yet. But I always knew I was going to do engineering, then took AP Physics and was like, this is not for me, but I like problem solving and designing things. And actually, my dad was the one who knew what industrial design was. So I did physical product design for 4 years in school, and then I did that for my first 4 years out of college. Um, Furniture design was very subjective and just like what's trending, and I kind of missed that problem solving side of design. So that's when I transitioned into UX design.
So, for someone who might not know what a product designer does specifically, how would you explain it to someone that might be, looking to get into it as a career?
Yeah, I mean, at the highest level, I design screens that are easy for customers to use and understand. That's probably, if I wasn't going to go any further, that's what my job is. I
Hmm.
think if I was going to take it a little further within our field, you'll hear a lot of terms like UX design, UI design, product designer. So for me, UX is really that like understanding user needs, the journeys, the flows, kind of mapping out the problems, what we're trying to solve for. Whereas UI design, user interface, is like making those visuals, micro interactions, haptic feedback, like really focusing on the visuals. And then a product designer, which I think is honestly really cool and important, is
Hmm.
kind of both of those grouped with like understanding the business needs and a little bit more of the strategy and vision.
So, for an example, would you say that the difference between like where on the screen a button goes might be UX, but where in the flow the button would go would be more like product design, that kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah. And I think product design also like balances like, hey, is this going to cost the company more money or less money, or which things do we want to push for on the screen? I think some of
Okay.
those decisions play in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, what does a typical day as a product designer look like for you?
Yeah, I feel like my days are pretty mixed. There's more meetings than you would think as a
Hmm.
designer. Um, Especially working with international teams, I wake up and I'm just in back-to-back meetings, but then I have more heads down time for design in my afternoons. But really, like, sometimes I'm in the nitty-gritty of like, I'm designing all the screens in a flow and getting that out. Once I hand it off to engineering, I'm in lots of chats with them. They show me demos of what they've built, and I'm checking that. But there's also a lot on like earlier in the projects with like, do we need research? Do we need analytics? Like our strategy and vision, putting together decks for stakeholders, like, hey, here's where we think this should go, and trying to get buy-in. There's kind of a million moving parts in design, so no day is exactly the same, but it's really like what do we need to do to get a project forward? And that's what I'm working on for that day.
So, what international teams do you work with?
Yeah, mainly a team in Scotland. So they're like 5 hours ahead.
So, how is that? Are there like big culture differences?
They like to wind me up. I think I'm very gullible.
Yeah, they do have a really funny sense of humor. It reminds me of the like Northeast Italian culture that I came from, a lot of
Yeah,
like just shit
yeah,
talking.
yeah.
Okay, so shifting gears a little bit. So I know how we spend a lot of time on apps. Being someone that is behind the scenes and sees how those decisions are made and how things are placed on those apps, how would you say your perspective differs?
Ask my husband about this because I'm pretty sure I drive him crazy. I look at apps through such a critical lens. I think the biggest things that stand out are like really cool things. Like if there's an awesome animation with haptic feedback, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna close this, reopen it, and like screen record it.
Mm.
Or if something's really bad and I'm like, this was not intuitive, they should have done it better. Or like just with if I'm working on a payment screen and then I'm paying on something else, I'm very like, oh, what did they do? How did they choose to do this? But I feel like it's hard to remove yourself from your work. Like I just kind of look at everything through that critical lens.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot after working on payments. Like, what is the default? That tells me
Oh my
so
God.
much. Like, where are things defaulted? What's place that's really easy to click through?
Yeah.
And imagine the scenario. You open your phone, you've got like one task to do, 20 minutes pass. What would you say is actually happening there from a design perspective?
Yeah. Um, This one's harder because I don't feel like I work on many screens that are that addictive. I feel like when I think of that, I think more like social media or gaming
hmm
or things that maybe have short interactions or like fun or like dopamine hits. I feel like those are the apps that really suck you in. I work more in the financial space and people aren't
Yeah.
like browsing payment screens for fun. Um, but I think a lot of that, I'm sure there's a lot of intentional design there, but it's like what stuff keeps people really engaged and hard to take themselves away from it.
I think what comes to mind for me is promotions, especially on like the responsible gaming side, where people were very compelled with the like right in the front, just promotion, $5 get 300, like that kind of thing
Mm.
really pulls people in. And are there moments that you've caught yourself thinking, I know exactly what they're doing here? Like we were kind of talking about the placement with payments.
Yes, I have an example. I like had Netflix. I'm trying to remember. This was a while ago.
hmm
And you can ask my husband again because he's like, you're so annoying. I like knew I had an account, but it was trying to tell me that I was like part of a different household and I needed to like sign up again and pay money. And it just seemed like a screen that like they're clearly just trying to make money and like people who aren't thinking through this might fall for it kind of thing. I can't remember the ins and outs of it, but I feel like anytime there's screens like that, I'm like, I know what they're trying to do.
So what's a product that you genuinely love using?
It's crazy. Because this answer I would have given for several years straight now.
hmm
Robinhood is like my go-to example of an amazing app. Like, first of all, it's stock market based. When I was younger, I did not know how to invest in the stock market, and it just seemed like daunting to figure it out. And I'm not saying it gives you guidance on what to do, but like at least like buying and selling stock was quite easy.
hmm
It's an industry that was so technical, and I think almost intentionally kept technical so that people couldn't understand it. And they really broke it down into like, here's a simple way to explain this. Here's the view you actually want to see. And then as they've evolved over time, like they're just an industry leader with like your balance numbers rounding up and down with cool
hmm
animations, or like, especially their content is good to reference. Like
hmm
it's stuff that's very legal and technical, and like you can't be as playful, but it's very like clear and forward. So I think I know they're into crypto and a bunch of other stuff I've not explored. I don't know if they're a good company or not, but I can say from like a design standpoint, they're always a competitor that I'm looking at.
And what do you think makes it different from other like app experiences that leave you feeling drained and maybe not wanting to return so much?
Um, I mean, it's kind of an interesting one because it's not like social media exactly where I'm
hmm
like,
hmm
oh, I just want to like kind of come back to this, but it is exciting to open and it's easy to check things and like, actually, I guess compared to even my other banking apps, I'm like, those are a pain to log into, a pain to like see everything I need to see and understand it. I just feel like I love how easy it is to understand and I can quickly check things and like get on with things.
And I remember with Robinhood, it had a lot of I don't know if it's like animations is the right word, but it just seemed like it was very smooth with how it went into the next screens.
It's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
all their transitions, like all of their when they have like a modal come up that's pushing something new, it's always like an animated illustration and it's just really engaging. Like it kind of makes you want to read stuff because you're like, this looks cool.
Engaging is a good word. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely use that. With users, what they say is very different than what they do. Like if you ask them, do you like this? They'll be like, oh, I really like this. But if you
Yeah.
watch them, like as a researcher, they might be using it wrong or they might not, they might skip past it. Like, how do you design for people when you know that you can't necessarily really like ask them what they want? You have to kind of
Mhm.
provide it to them.
Yeah, I think in that case, you just design is iterative and you have to be flexible. Like if people say they want something, but then they're not using it, and whether we see that through replays or um, analytics, like however we're figuring out, hey, they're not doing what they said they're doing, I think you just kind of have to put your ego and pride aside and be
Hmm.
like, let's
Hmm.
change this to what they want. Or because like people just genuinely don't know what they want until it's in front of them and then they do other things. So I think the best thing you can do in that case is just honestly pivot.
So what's a time that you have pushed back and said, this will not work for our users? Can you think of a time that you have had to maybe balance user needs with business goals?
This happens all the time, and I think this falls under that umbrella of product designer. So if you're not somebody who wants to push back or have conversations like that, product design may not be for you. It's more of my job than I would like it to be. But um, even like a simple thing that comes to mind is we had a different team in the business really want to add a logo thing that says like trusted by 4 million users.
Mm,
I personally am like, we already have a lot on our screen. I don't know if that really builds trust. Kind of like you said, it's kind of hard to test because people will be like, yeah, it builds trust, but then like, does it? I don't know. Like, and
right.
some apps put that, and I'm like, is this sketchy? Because it's saying that, like, they're trying to overly prove this to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So ultimately, sometimes you just have to be flexible and experiment.
Hmm.
So I was like, fine, run it. But if it doesn't make people deposit more, then let's not have it there because if it even if it's not doing any harm and if it's adding clutter to the page and not adding value, it's not really worth it. So I let that team test it and then it did not add any value, so we stripped it
Mm.
back.
Where would you say in a process like that, going back and forth, where would research fit into that process between like design, research, product?
I'm actually going to flip this one and let you answer since you're the research expert.
I mean, ideally, it would be that we would have a chance to, instead of just asking users, maybe show some concepts
Yeah.
and just see how they would respond, maybe on like a clickable prototype. Or if it is something that's just simple copy, maybe go like you said, just going straight into experimentation. But yeah, I think that that really illustrates the importance of testing correctly. I think that there's a big misconception that anyone can just like talk to users. Well, this is a good example of being like, hey, well, if it says trusted by millions, people be like, well, yeah. But it's like if you're actually in, if the person is in the experience and they see it, like, will they notice it? Like, how will they perceive it? Like that kind of thing. So ideally, that would be the kind of thing that would be, um, the concept would be tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
And
would
for
even
sure.
be the
And that
meaning?
might not be the best example because like there's definitely moments where you need more heavy research. This was like a line of copy. And when people are actually depositing money, I feel like that's a very different emotion than like seeing a screen and being like, oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Like when you're actually
Exactly.
giving your money away, it's very different. But yeah, I think research and experimentation together, and just there's some moments where one can work or the other can work.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think is the hardest thing to get right designing for real people as opposed this I think really fits into sports betting. There's like this idealized version of what they think of a sports bettor, and then there's just real people. Like how do you balance those?
It's really hard because sometimes you feel like you're one of the only people advocating for the user, and you just have
Hmm.
to like stay true to that. Like, I think something with our customers that we have known for a long time is they really like generosity, and that kind of thing draws them in, but the
Hmm.
business
Hmm.
isn't always going to be able to meet those needs.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like if I'm thinking of my ideal user, yeah, they're going to want offers and then they're going to play more and they're going to like enjoy it. But we can't always like give them that experience. Um, I think in the startup world, just to pivot a little bit,
Hmm.
um, I've seen people be like, I have this great idea and lots of people want it. And it's like, that's not true at all. Like, I think research is so valuable there to prove that people actually want certain things. I know that's sorry, a little bit of a tangent, but
No, that's okay. No, 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 that's not a
I
tangent at
think just
all.
like validating like, hey, this is what people actually want is really important, especially the earlier on you are in a business.
And one thing that I've noticed is that they want to generalize in my experience, product people kind of want to generalize like the most valuable customer and kind of like but it could be like the minority of people that are behaving a certain way, like for instance just playing constantly or being like VIP or somebody that like they're obviously going to have a very different level of like knowledge and experience than maybe just like a casual player that when they're with their friends, they just get on and choose to, sports bet. And I saw a lot of generalization that everyone is kind of the same.
Yeah,
And I
that's a good
I,
call
I
out.
yeah, and a lot of differentiation is skipped.
Yeah.
Would you, along those lines, would you say that you gear your design and your goals more towards like the general user or more of like a specialized user?
I mean, I work in payments, so it's very generalized. Like,
Hmm.
I think in an ideal world, we'll work towards some level of personalization, and I think that
Hmm.
stuff is coming. So that's exciting and something to look forward to. But right now, it's a bit more generalized.
So can you tell me about a time that people said they were not interested in a feature, but then it was released and people loved it?
Okay, yeah. So one that comes to mind is on the responsible gaming side of things. I think there's a big stigma of like, I don't need help, I don't need limits, these tools aren't for me. But we've presented users with alerts as an option where it's like, hey, do you want to set this? It just reminds you once you hit a certain amount that like this is what you're trying to spend. And then I think when people feel in control and they're setting the pace of their play or setting their budget, like and it's not going to actually limit them, I think people engage with it more than they think they might engage with it.
Okay. And talking about words and content, have you ever seen a feature completely change with how it lands just based on what they called it?
Actually, I just stole my own example. I was going to say, compared to set your limit, like set the pace of your play or be in control of your budget, I think empowering users goes a really long way, especially with sensitive things like responsible gaming, but letting users like feel like it's their choice and that they're in control and not like they have a problem. I think words are really powerful, and this is the silliest example to give you, but I was at Publix the other day and one of the end caps had dude wipes on it. I was like, think about it. Like, femcare wipes were like not marketed at men forever. And then someone literally just called them dude wipes. And then that
Yeah.
was like a whole successful campaign.
Yeah, and it's such a
It's
simple
like,
like dude wipe,
it's a
like
funny one, but that's literally just
yeah.
words. Like, that is not
Yeah.
a different product. And it's just words making men feel more comfortable to buy that product. So I think words are really important, whether it's like physical product design, web design, marketing, like it really does matter.
And this is shifting gears a little bit, but it's kind of along the lines of where things get a little complicated. Whose fault is it when something goes undiscovered, something useful goes undiscovered? Is that on design or on the user or on product?
Don't think it's on the user. Um, Probably both design and product. I know I'm working on a new initiative of like not quite the same thing, but like unintended consequences as well. Like you actually even back to design school with industrial design, it was like we always had misuse and then unforeseeable misuse. Like there's just always things you're going to overlook. I do feel
Hmm.
like at the end of the day, it's more on product and design to catch those things and then iterate once you notice that gap that you missed. It's so hard to predict everything that you're always going to miss a few things, but it's probably never the user's fault. They're the ones that are just trying to use the product, and if we're not delivering, that's on us.
One really good example I just saw posted on LinkedIn was the skip intro when you're watching a show. That was something that went undiscovered and kind of like ignored as an idea for a while. And they saw that people were skipping forward 5 minutes
Oh
on
yeah.
average. So then they launched the skip intro and it's wildly successful.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's a really good example of like, if you were to ask people, they probably wouldn't really ask for that. They would just ask
Right.
for less commercials, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Or to just start immediately.
Yeah. That's a really good one. Actually, on that note, I thinking back to an earlier question, something I noticed the other day was after watching 3 episodes of something, I can't remember, we have a bunch of different streaming services, but one of them just like kicked us out of it completely. It was like, are you still there? And then no, and then kicked us out. And I was like, I told my husband, I was like, I wonder if because they have to pay royalties to like for
Mm.
certain shows, if they do that just so it doesn't like keep running and then I wondered if it was a financial thing or not. It totally might not be, but this is where my brain goes now that I'm a product designer.
Yeah, that's a really good example of kind of knowing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I wonder how that, because I noticed that the thing about how shows just kind of skip to the next episode. And if you fall asleep, it just keeps going versus I don't think it was that long ago where it would just boot you out.
Yeah.
So the main premise of this podcast is like calm tech. And where I got that idea is, especially working in the tech industry, everything was like speeding up with AI and getting so, do we do this manually? Do we do this how do we stay calm in like this new technological world, which seems like it's like in hyper growth? From where you sit, what does a healthy relationship with technology actually look like?
So for me, I have to be really honest with myself about technology, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that can be a really hard thing. So like I'll give a few examples. I'm a runner. I
Mm-hmm.
use Strava. That's one of the few apps I have a really healthy relationship. I like giving kudos to my friends, like for runs they do. I don't really compare myself to other people because I've
Mm-hmm.
had a coach for 20 years and like I have my own training plan. I'm
Mm-hmm.
confident in that working. But a lot of my friends have been like, if I see somebody else go do a longer long run than me, I'll make my next one longer or I'll pick
Mm.
up my pace and then it just starts this like negative spiral of a comparison game. And actually more of my friends than not have had to like leave Strava because it's not good for them.
What is it about Strava that makes people get more competitive? Is it just seeing what their friends are doing?
It's literally seeing what other people are doing, especially if it's somebody who's a like maybe runs a similar marathon time to you. If you're like, oh, they're doing this, I should be doing this. It's really easy to get caught up into because you see somebody's activity. So you see like, hey, they ran this far at this pace, and then you can kind of copy it. So like I think you have to be really honest with yourself. And for me, like Instagram's probably the biggest one where I have to like, this will sound so silly, but I got married 2 years ago and I still get pushed wedding things. And then I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I wish I'd picked a different veil. Like I really didn't like mine.
Mm.
And it kind of like gets me into a negative headspace if I
Mm-hmm,
start seeing
mm-hmm.
a lot of it. So I have to like hit not interested on all those posts so that my algorithm will finally like stop sharing that kind of stuff. And I did get my algorithm one day to being all dog videos, which is like really where I want to be. But you have to be honest with yourself because it's like it's hard to like actually realize like something as silly as like a wedding dress post is like making me feel sad about choices I made with my dress. Like it's like my dress was right at the time, but trends have changed and I just need to like ignore all of that.
So tell me about the tension between making a product more successful with business goals and what would actually be better for the person using it. Like, how do you navigate like that line with design?
So you're not going to win every battle. And my
Mm-hmm.
biggest
Mm-hmm.
advice here is to prioritize the things that you think have the most impact. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are things and features that I'm like, above all else, if this is the one I can get into the product, I am going to push back on stakeholders here. And maybe there's something that's like, okay, this is an error screen that less than 1% of people see. I'm not going to fight for like, the content has to be different here if I can fight for like, hey, this deposit experience that everybody sees can be improved. Like it's really, you will get so exhausted if you fight for
Mm-hmm.
everything. Like you don't have the bandwidth to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to see stuff go out the door that's not where you want it to be. I think this just takes years of practice to like get to a better spot with it, but fight for the things that you like believe have the most impact or would be the most proud of. That would be my advice.
Yeah. That, as a researcher, definitely had a lot of experience with that. It really depended on um I feel like having product, the thing that made it so tough was all the consistent changes. So being that person where you're like, you understand the product well enough that you can make, you've already shown that you understand enough to push back and make suggestions. And then all these like changes would happen. Like as a researcher, that would be so tough, especially with qualitative research, because
Yeah.
you don't have to talk to a ton of people to find out that something may or may not be, people might not be receptive to it.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, that constant line of pushing back and knowing when to just, it's a tough one.
I also, for my own sake, I always carry out with the designs, like in my own time. If I can't get the ideal experience, know that as a designer, you're growing your portfolio. So at the end of
Hmm.
the day, I can
Hmm.
be like, hey, here's what I proposed. Here's, where it went. It's always good to have them back pocket too, because a lot of the times later on the business will be like, why didn't we do it this way? And you can be like, here it is. A year ago I designed it and here's the file. So I think there's a
That,
lot of value of just still doing it, even if it's not going to go live, and
mhm.
just kind of have that back pocket.
It's so interesting that you say that because I remember doing research, even if it was just like for certain ideas, there was never a single time that you didn't have a design that I could be like, remember we had this like random conversation about this like idea of maybe doing this? You're like, here you go. Like, I was, I was like, yeah, Lord.
I fight for a lot, man. I really do. Um, so you just have to be patient, but really worry about the high impact, like especially for your portfolio. At the end of the day, like that is what's going to help you get your next job. So
Hmm. Hmm.
and they're going to ask you, how did you navigate a situation like this? So even better, have both versions ready, talk through both. Sometimes things circle back and then you get to improve the product later. So it all builds a really nice story.
And how important, like if this were going to be like a newcomer getting into design, how important is the portfolio at this point? And kind of like just really quick summing it up, what would that should that look like?
I mean, portfolios are important because we do review those, and try to get your first impressions really
Hmm.
good. Like I'm
Hmm.
looking for thought process that you actually like can think through, and not just like a generic like what we learned in intro to UX boot camp, but like really that you have worked with businesses, understand like how to balance stakeholders and all the different needs. And like it's not a weakness if a project doesn't go through and you built vision decks and all sorts of stuff to try to like push a vision forward. Like showing all of that stuff and being able to talk through those experiences is like really critical. I see a lot of portfolios that are generic AI designs with
Mm.
screens, or like I don't know how to describe it. Like that's one of them, or just like kind of generic, here's my UX process, it's double diamond and then this. And it's like that stuff's all great, but like show me a real applied problem and like how you navigated stakeholders and where the designs actually landed versus what you designed and how you navigated it. Like that's the stuff that's often missing, at least for product design
Hmm.
specifically.
And what are some things that make it obvious that it's AI generated?
Generally, when it's like generic and doesn't match the branding of whatever product you're using, like
Mm.
AI is just super behind. Even if I give it our design system, I
Hmm.
can't tell you how many times it makes our buttons rounded instead of rectangular.
Mm.
And I'm like, I've literally given you our design system. Like, and it just like decides it doesn't like our button style and changes it. Like, there's things that are really obvious that AI changes. And um, I think it's just when it's really generalized, like real screens also have, I feel like they're always really simple when they're AI,
Mm.
and real
Hmm.
screens
Hmm.
have a
Hmm.
lot more stuff going on. Like there's just more of the business side behind it. So those are kind of the main things I would see.
Or even a little imperfection.
Yeah, that too.
Seeing some imperfection, you're like, okay, like I've noticed that in writing and copy, or when there's some kind of error, I'm like, okay, well, at least we know that they misspelled something, so they're the ones that wrote it.
Yeah.
And so from inside a product team, how would you say that AI is changing things?
I mean, it's all the buzz right now.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely changed certain skill sets that I've had to level up. I would say content design is one of the biggest ones. So, like, I have a content companion I use, and I don't rely on content designers as much. And I try to like take more of a stab at it. We still have content designers, and I still definitely still bounce ideas off of them. But um, those are definitely some skills where I didn't have as much confidence before, and now
Hmm.
I've tried to grow my confidence there. I've played around with prototyping in our hackathon. I feel like I don't post on LinkedIn. I get very overwhelmed. That's just like an app that I'm off of. But every time I go on there, people are like, Figma Make and all this can just design all your screens. I'm like, go try it. I tried it for my hackathon. It is so far off where it needs to be. I think it'll get there, but like right now, especially the more integrated it is with a current product, the harder it is. Even if I give it the exact screens and say make a prototype, it just like changes buttons and elements and spacing and all sorts of
Hmm.
stuff. And then it takes me more time to clean it up than if I had just made a prototype. So like, and I've tried a lot of different things. I tried Lovable, Claude, Figma Make. Like I've played around a lot. Some simple tasks you can get done, and then some you can't. So you just I know it's all evolving, and that you have to learn. Like definitely don't avoid it. That won't be good for your career at the moment. Like
Hmm.
it's important to engage and learn what you can. But I think the next thing that's going to be measured rather than like token usage is like how efficiently you use it. So I think if you can figure out what use cases are good and what use cases are not good, that's really where the value will be in the future.
Yeah, I remember, like you were saying, trying to use it for prototypes. I was trying to build a deck, a PowerPoint deck, and I probably went through with like giving it feedback and iterations. I even with an example of a template, like probably 15 times before I was like, okay, never mind. I'm just building this myself because I kept being like, actually, can you make this margin a little bit bigger? This is like overlapping this, or like there's different. And I was like, was it losing its mind? I don't know where it was getting that thought. So the more comprehensive
Yeah.
stuff, I just don't really think it's there yet. And another thing that's interesting is that you're not the first person to say they're overwhelmed by LinkedIn.
Mm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what it is about LinkedIn that seems overwhelming?
I could probably do a whole podcast episode on this. Um, I just think there's a lot of misinformation on there. Like, it's just like people are just like trying to create fear and panic. Like,
Mm,
everybody's like, AI is already taken over every job. I'm like, if you about like market yourself as somebody who can think about the business and design screens, like, that's not going away anytime soon. Like,
hmm.
AI cannot do that stuff yet. And I get so tired of seeing posts that are like, it's already happened, there's no jobs left. Like, that's just not the reality. Maybe I'm I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Um, so there's a lot of debate right now with is AI going to replace people? Where do you land in that? Like, I know we already did just kind of talk about it, but if you were going to be like scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you that AI is going to take all of our jobs? What would you give it?
Chrissy, I think I'm an optimist. Um, I don't see it. Like, I think maybe there will be a reduction in number of jobs, but like the value, especially if you can align yourself like strategically and with the business, like that is not something AI is really able to do right now. Like, and token usage is going to go up. It's going to get expensive. Businesses are going to realize how expensive it is and then realize we should just have a workforce. Like, I'm hoping this will be an ebbs and flow and that it'll kind of correct itself in a little bit. I'm an optimist though. I'm like, the value of being human is the part you need to market right now because like there's so much value I still bring that AI cannot bring.
Yeah, I really think that there was a lot of jumping the gun in
Yeah.
replacing
Oh
people
yeah.
this year. I think it was like 185,000 employees in
Yeah.
tech were replaced for AI. And I think that that is going to be pulled back when they just find out it's not going to be cost savings. And not only
Yeah.
is it not going to be cost savings, it's just losing a lot of institutional knowledge
Yep.
and just the human finesse of
Yeah.
being able to understand people and be empathetic.
Yeah.
What do you think most people get wrong about AI?
I mean, I'll kind of circle back to earlier examples, but for me, I just think that people think it's in a state that it's not at yet.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
they think it can just do whole research studies start to finish. And I'm like, no, it can't. It can't recruit users. It can't write the brief perfectly. Like it can help, but it can't do all of that. And same with design. I'm like, it is, I've literally given it my Figma files of here's my screens, here's my design system. I want to add this to the flow. And then it just like, it's just not, it's just not there yet. I think that's the biggest misconception is that it's already there. And I don't doubt that some of it can get a lot further, but I hate that they're like, it's already here. And I'm like, unless you're like a single person designing an app and it's a new startup where you don't have to integrate with all these existing things, it's just not where people think it is yet.
I agree. I actually, you remember I did the whole process, but where it would like broke down like each task from like 15 hours to like an hour for
Yeah.
each task, but it still required a lot of setting up before
Yeah.
I couldn't just like let it run. It would end up with the completely wrong
Yeah.
suggestions.
Oh, for sure.
And what's something you've changed about your own relationship with technology that's different now than it was a few years ago, if
Um,
anything?
no, no, no. The biggest thing for me was eliminating politics. I have no
Mm,
politics on my technology anymore. That was really bad for my mental health.
hmm hmm
And like I said, kind of just like being honest or things like Instagram. I just say like not interested on stuff that triggers me. Those are probably the biggest changes I've made. And then this one's not even tech related, but I got a dog a few months ago. And when I walk her, I have my phone in my pocket in case I need it. But like I have a rule that I'm not on my phone when I'm with her. I'm just like on my phone less now. And between like getting outside, walking my dog, not being on my phone, I do a lot less doom scrolling and like it's just calmed me a lot. So in the light of this being like the calm tech life. I think also just like removing yourself from tech and like doesn't have to be a dog. Just go out for a walk or like do something where you're not on your phone more. Like it's always hard because I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel like walking her. But then once I get out, especially if it's like lunchtime, I often feel like I'm too busy. I can't do this. And then once I do it and I'm just sitting outside and it's a nice day, I'm like, this was really nice.
So I definitely relate to being super busy and to the point of like burnout is sometimes in this industry. How do you decompress at the end of the day?
Yeah, other outlets, running, walking the dog,
Hmm
cooking. It's hard to decompress. I will say, I hold myself to working in this room at my house. I don't
hmm
work on my couch
hmm
generally, with the exception of like maybe a few World Cup games. I've been guilty of that.
hmm Fair.
But in general, I try to have a clear dividing line because especially with the work from home life, it is so hard to like shut your laptop and be done for the day. Like there's more expectations than there used to be, I think, on like, people message me at all hours and stuff, and I don't have any notifications on my phone
Mm.
anymore. I don't even have Outlook on my phone. So sometimes I'm like, "Hmm, is this going to be a problem if I need to check my email?" But I really just try to disconnect myself as much as I can.
Is there any, because I relate to that completely. Like, do you ever get any pushback about not like replying 24/7?
I don't.
It's like unspoken, right? It's kind of like unspoken to like I felt like I had to kind of stay on top of the messages just for my own like knowing what was going on. But that was kind of on me, like instead of just letting it wait till the next day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any like retaliation or whatever. Like I just, it's more like I get anxious if I know there's something that needs replied to. I don't think it's actually that other people are upset
Right.
about it. But yeah, I have to like not check stuff. My most anxiety comes in the morning because I
Mm.
wake up to 5 hours of messages that came in.
Mm.
And you feel like you need to respond by the end of day
Because of the
Scotland time.
Scotland. Yeah.
But then my day starts with 3 hours of meetings. And so I can't like, unless I log in really early and I'm not a morning person, I can't get to all those messages before my meetings. And that's probably like where my most anxiety comes from. And I have to just be
hmm
like, okay, your Slack says you're in a meeting.
hmm
We'll
hmm
get, no one ever actually is like, why haven't you responded?
Yeah.
But I get in my own head about it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question. What's one thing that someone listening could do to feel a little bit more in control of their tech instead of like tech controlling them? If you had a suggestion.
Just be honest with yourself, like delete things that aren't good for you and try to like limit things in certain ways that you can. Like, and everybody's different, right? Like some of my friends can't handle Strava, whereas there's certain things I can't handle on Instagram. Like, we're all different. Don't compare yourself to other people. Like, just do what's best for you with all of it.
It's such a, it sounds like such a different community that what like having an app would actually make you run more and run faster.
I know
It's like,
the whole
I don't know who
premise
you're
is
friends with.
the whole premise is to like have a good community and give kudos, like talk about unintended consequences. Like
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
sure when they built this, they were like, oh, it's just a way to keep friends connected and,
Hmm.
support each other. And then it's like
Right.
turned into the opposite.
So, if you had any advice for somebody that was interested in getting into design in this current world, what would you say is like closing advice?
I would say with getting into product design, the more that you can like build that story of the value you've brought to the business, like especially in instances where you can quantify it, like, hey, I suggested this thing for this screen, we experimented or researched it, and then when we launched it, it did X. That piece is often really missing. Like
Hmm.
a lot
Hmm.
of people can design screens, but not a lot of people can tell the story.
Hmm.
And I think just because like I was like little Miss Entrepreneur as a kid, my parents, my dad was always letting me start businesses. I was like always trying to sell stuff. So I feel like the
Like
story.
lemonade?
Oh, not just lemonade. I've like designed 3D printed guitar
Oh
pick
my
holders.
God. That's
I've
so
started
cute.
Etsy shops, and back when Snapchat was big, I like designed a Snapchat filter for my friend's bachelorette party, and then I sold like 1,000 of them on Etsy. Like, I don't know, I've done a lot of different little businesses, but I feel like storytelling's something I've always had to do
Yeah.
as part of it. But like, the better and more comfortable you get with that, like, that'll really help you out. And I don't think it's a skill set you realize as a designer is important,
Hmm.
but yeah, the more you can kind of grow how you like if you just put screens up and people aren't following like what's going on, like, oh, I always start every meeting like assuming everyone knows nothing. I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
Or I can
Hmm.
even say, hey, look, I think most of us have seen these, but let me just start. Let me ground you with some context. Like a user's trying to do X. Here's the current experience today. Here's where we're trying to go. Like, I think in the past, I've taken a lot of that for granted. But like, if you want to grow your skill set as a designer, the better at that stuff you get, the more it'll help you advance in your career.
It's great advice. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for the
Of
time. This was super
course.
fun. And I'm sure you gave a lot of people, especially those looking to get into design, to think about. I know I have a lot to think about. And for everyone that tuned in, thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chrissy.